Good afternoon, everyone. I hope the last two sessions were insightful for you all. And coming to the third session for today, it is my honor to invite all our esteemed panel members for this topic. It is my pleasure to invite our moderator, Dr. Sujata Vaidya. She's the director at SUPRA Health Solutions, LLP. Our esteemed diverse panel members, starting with Dr. Vivek Srivastav. He's the Vice President for Research and Development and Operations at Esperer Onco Nutrition. We have Jyoti Arora. She's the Chief Dietitian for All India Institute of Ayurveda. We have Mr. Vikash Raj, Asia Pacific Innovation Director at Azelis. We have Ranjita Balakrishnan, Chief Marketing Officer at Expert Nutraceutical Advocacy Council. Also, we have Dr. Prabodh Shirish Halde. He's the Head Regulatory Marico Limit at Marico. Over to you, Dr. Sujata, and the panel members.
Namaskar and welcome to this session on nutraceutical and the importance of traditional knowledge to deliver wellness globally. Like I tell everybody, there is a distinct difference between wellness management or health management and disease management. So we have an esteemed panel over here who's going to give us a lot of insight into very specific questions, which are going to help our audience in a great manner. Basically, the Indian nutraceutical industry has successfully taken traditional knowledge to global market and specifically Indian traditional knowledge on the basis of Ayurveda. Now, a lot of the Ayurvedic statements that have been coming in all the newspapers and all the medias where people are looking for solutions have been supported with evidence-based validation. And this has really triggered a new trend amongst the people as consumers, as well as the industry, as the manufacturing or the service industry that is offering very explicit information about the options that are being offered in using traditional knowledge for the wellness industry. The trend has expanded. In India, it is homegrown. So people have taken it not very seriously. But you look at the European markets, so you look at the international global markets, the demand for Ayurvedic products, or as they would like to call it, herbal supplements or nutraceuticals, and of course now traditional systems has taken leaps and bounds. The panel is going to talk about various roadmaps that they have created for themselves and what they have to offer to our audience. Importance of traditional knowledge pre and post-COVID era, especially post-COVID because we haven't seen the end as yet. We're talking about new variants. And what we are talking about is something that has frightened the pharmaceutical and the health ministry, the industry, because we don't have a weapon against what is binding us back at home. Of course, nutraceuticals gives an opportunity for novel ingredients. And when we are talking about novel ingredients and their applications, we are emphasizing on evidence-based statements, which will support the options that are being given by our esteemed panelists. And of course, this is going to be a building block of success, which is going to be on the strong foundation of traditional knowledge. Remember, traditional knowledge is not ancient knowledge. It is something that has withstood the test of time. And it is something that is going to once again bring forward the faith of humanity as consumers, as people who offer services, as people who offer products, as people who go into the scientific basis of what is happening, what needs to be done in our society in combating something like pandemic. But the truth is, this is health and wellness. So I welcome all the esteemed panelists. I look forward to your answers, and we need to show our audience a beautiful way forward. Rather than invite each panelist separately, this particular session is going to be more like a formal, informal conversation amongst the 5 esteemed people who are on board. I'd like to break the question to Dr. Vivek Srivastav. Please tell us, what are the latest global trends in herbal products? I'm using a safe term. I'm not calling it Ayurveda products or traditional products, but for a global market, the term herbal seems apt. Please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Vaidya. First of all, it was a really nice prelude which you had given before the session. When it comes to the herbal market, herbal, yes, when we talk about the herbal, it is directly related to the part of the Ayurveda. But globally, it is known the herbal supplement because when it is categorized, it's herbal supplements, herbal food, or herbal medicinal products. Looking at the market, yes, it is a trending market. And with the latest upcoming years by 2022, I will not talk about another 10 years for data. By 2022, this market is projected to reach about 86.74 USD billion. Now, out of this overall trend, this projection of in terms of the value, the billions, which I just told you in the figure, which stake is most? So when we talk about if I will just go with the format, doses format, or if I'll go with the parts use of the plants, leaves is predominating here. About 68%, which comes from the leaves, and in that market, the leaves like green tea extract leaves or ginkgo biloba leaf or some kind of the other leaves market is quite dominating. In terms of the doses format, it's still the same trend because when it comes to the format like capsules or the tablet, these are the most favorable because since certain herbs for certain activities are better in the principle, better in the taste, so a lot of the palatability issues are there. So it's still the preferences like dissolving the powder in water or the beverages or as such is not that uptrend still. So in that case, I will say that solid doses format is uptrended in this market segment. Coming to the disease, the focus is more given on management, wellness, because I believe when it comes to talk about herbal supplement is the part of the food is part of the wellness and medicine is for the illness. I will focus on the food as a wellness part, and that is where people are managing their inflammation. Because this population is being aware about the conditions. For them, it is not management about the inflammation. As a person who knows about Ayurveda, they will look at this inflammation management. So they know if they will start the earlier supplementation by the herbals, so they'll start taking the herbals at this stage, it will be the reduced chances to get the disease in the later stages of their life. So more focus is given on the management. It's like more towards the supplementation in different categories like the vascular health, cardiovascular health, or something on their cognizance, this cognitive sciences, and then which goes towards the arthritic management, like the inflammatory as a part of it. So a lot of the various diseases, but I will not name various diseases here because the focus has to give in on the management of the part. So better the management will be, the better the stage life will be throughout their lifespan. That is the one focus. Coming to the future of this market, how the global trend should be there. So we cannot exactly predict how the trend is going to be in the future, but looking at the current scenario in the market, I think this trend will be continued about that at different stages of the life. For example, from the child to the adulthood and then to the seniors, it will be knowing, okay, this can be a disease in a threat in the future for me or for a particular stage. I should take in the prevention to manage my situation rather to get into disease for. So the focus will be still given on the wellness because this is a new cognizance of the global trend, the global population. That's my notion about this question to you.
Great, Dr. Vivek. I'm tempted to ask you, make a statement over here before the next question. You spoke about the people getting prepared and understanding what their personal health threats are. And so they should be designing their diets today to combat the disease of tomorrow. This is a fantastic observation. Thank you for that. And it will come up with a question later on.
Thank you.
Ranjita Balakrishnan. The question to you is a little bit around this particular topic, but maybe you can tell a lot about this. What are the opportunities? Okay, now the opportunities come both to the end users as well as the manufacturing or the business segment for novel ingredients and innovative dosage forms. So you have two over here, making it interesting for the consumer in this sector.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Sujata, for this question. And as Dr. Vivek has highlighted, if you see the current market scenario, the wellness supplements, the nutraceuticals, the herbal supplements, you would largely find them a larger chunk in the tablets or a capsule dosage format. But
there is now a consumer demand. There is a consumer who now has a range of preferences, like whether it's buying a shoe for his gym or it's a food they eat. Now a consumer expects more variations. And even the industry has grown to a next step where they have also come up with a very innovative dosage formats, which not only gives a convenience to the consumer, but also adding this, keeping in mind the safety, quality, and the easy preparedness to the sector. So when you analyze the constraints brings innovation, this is what I believe. And with this constraints being the leaf extract being difficult to extract and isolate and put it in a capsule, the industry has come up with a very innovative dosage forms, I would say, in the area of health and wellness. If you see, there are organic products which are available in sprinkler formats. Like you just need to sprinkle them on your food products, put it in your soups, put it in your juices, put it in your sambar. Like you have the novel, it's the ingredient moringa is not a novel ingredient, but now for the industry, this is completely a new upcoming ingredient that is there in the market. And moringa is like, it's there in sambar. Whenever a sambar is made, people add moringa to it. But now you have the option that you have a powder. You just need to sprinkle in your sambar and eat it, and you get the added benefit of it. So the different dosage formats which I had gone through in the market, there was curcumin latte, which was seen. There was ashwagandha gummies. They were really interesting to see gummies, which even I can tell a teenager to take it. Like it's as simple, just pop a gummy and go to your work. Proprietary blends available. There is oral sprays that are available, oral strips that are available. There's coffee pots, which has, you just, as your coffee dispenser, you can also dispense your extracts. So it's the industry is growing in a very new trend where the consumer demands, consumer can easily blend their daily routines with these benefits of supplements.
I think one of the most important dosage format that is picking up great popularity is teas.
Teas, yeah. Exactly.
Teas.
Decoction teas. You have a range of them available in the market these days. Also, even mixed juices.
Yes, mixed juices also. And I'm finding that there are tea parties that are going around which have stopped drinking green tea and black tea, and now they're going into these really fantastic names and
yes.
Very, very, very exciting. So in keeping in trend with this new demand that is happening in the market, what I would like to ask you, Vikash Raj, is that can you give specific examples, in protecting and also in putting forward traditional knowledge, how it is finding its way into the nutraceutical products, and what are the opportunities the market should look forward to as these things unfold for the future?
Thanks, Dr. Sujata, and to NutriThink for giving me this opportunity. I would certainly like to extend the conversation by giving certain examples, but I would take a moment to briefly introduce myself. Somebody who is living in Singapore for the last 14-15 years, but I am the homegrown boy. So today in this esteemed panel and to the audience today, what I would like to bring in is the outside-in perspective from the eyes of the Indian boy, if I may say so. So the many examples that I'm going to share with you is built upon what Ranjita and Dr. Vivek said, but also bringing in terms of what is happening outside India as a market. And where do we see parallel products and offers being made? And therefore, for the audience who are on this call, what kind of commercial and economic opportunity that they can look for in terms of exporting products which are getting highly accepted now in the COVID era, made in India. Okay, so this is where I would like to now give certain examples. So we talked about just now tea and mixed juices and moringa. The immediate extension that comes to me from my experience is turmeric latte, and something which is really very trendy. And if I now bring back my childhood days memory, we used to close our nose when mom is giving and then have the so-called traditional turmeric latte. And today you go to any cafe or any happening beverage joints, whether it's Generation G or millennial, they are accepting this as a new lifestyle product because they are becoming more aware of the benefits that turmeric latte, or in our home tradition, hot milk with a couple of spoons of turmeric was giving. Building on what Ranjita mentioned about moringa, you would be surprised that in Philippines, there is a noodles product which is targeted towards the lactating moms. And it is again coming through the extracts, like either you put through the powder, but there are packaged food products today which are penetrating the mainstream, and they are finding their way in terms of the groceries, and that is influencing the part of the diet. And the underlying value, of course, is in terms of health benefit, protection, more importantly, the proactive part of it. So quickly touching upon one more example, again, and growing up in India, whenever the calf birth has happened and the first milk comes, I still remember a neighborhood will get the first milk distributed, and we used to have that condensed in different forms, and mom will give us to eat. Now, that's what colostrum is, and the very active component there is lactoferrin, which is almost 7 times in higher concentration in the first milk, colostrum. And I mean, it's a global protein and has a lot of benefit in terms of immunity, in terms of tissue repair, in terms of nutrition. So look here, we grew up eating the colostrum, and today, if we look into the nutraceutical world, highly purified bioactive lactoferrin is getting commercialized. So this is how I'm seeing more and more in the pre-COVID and post-COVID consumers embracing these kind of nutraceutical products, which has a very deep-rooted origin in our traditional knowledge.
That's good, Vikash, because I back you on the colostrum part of it, because my own company has conducted not 1, but 3 registered clinical trials using colostrum to actually show how it has completely reversed the stages of disease and brought people back into health and harmony. And that is the power of traditional foods, the traditional healthcare. And of course, one point that I would like to bring forth over here while you're talking about the importance of traditional knowledge is the trend that is happening in the market. Maybe, of course, the other panelists will add to it, of maintaining the traditional names of the various herbs or ingredients that are used in these nutraceuticals. So at this stage, I think the correct person to talk to us about this more is Jyoti Arora as a nutritionist, and she is going to be talking about the in-depth nutragenomics and the importance of personalized nutrition, because Ayurveda and traditional systems really put a lot of emphasis of giving a person what he or she needs at that time. And I think that is where the personalization would come in. But let's understand more from Jyoti. Over to you. Jyoti, you have to unmute, my dear.
Okay, so thanks, Dr. Sujata, for this question, and thanks for giving me this opportunity. So I will be rather a little contradict with what the other panelist was saying, because nowadays we hear a lot about these fancy foods such as the California walnuts or goji berries or chia seeds and quinoa. But still we really can see that disease graph is peaking, while there are people who are actually following diet which is just opposite to the diet recommendations mentioned by the modern dietetics, and still they are hale and hearty. For instance, Odisha people take rice as a staple food, have less incidence of the diabetes comparatively, or the South Indians are using the coconut oil, and it's, you know, that is the high ratio of the saturated fat levels, but still they are having comparatively less incidence of the heart problems than the North Indians who are using the olive oils and the other refined oils. So I guess the answer lies in the genetics, which is saying that you are what your grandparents eat, or maybe your great grandparents eat. So we have our imprints of our ancestors, which means the children of the parents having any metabolic disease or the other diseases are more prone to develop the same disorder. So this is the thing. Just a minute. Yeah.
Yes,
So
Jyoti.
yeah. So that's why the answer lies in the genetics. But the good news is that the epigenetics is something which is actually dealing with the environmental sciences. As per the Ayurveda, our genetics is definitely is giving a shape to what we are actually, but the environment, the very next environment where which we are living, actually is also affecting the genetic imprints, not exactly on the DNA level, but also on the gene expression levels. So you really can say the genetics is basically loading the gun, but epigenetics is something which is actually triggering it. So that's why the epigenetics, or you really can say more specifically, the nutrigenomics is something which is definitely helping us. But yeah, right now the question is, because the environment which we are living nowadays is very toxic. We are actually interacting with a lot of toxins in our life, whether this is the air pollution is there, or maybe the food processing effects we are having, like the dioxin in the processed food which we are encountering, or maybe the pesticides in the plant food which we are consuming. So we really can't move away from the hazards which we are having because of these environmental pollutants. But the thing is that we also have answers in the Ayurveda about the nutrigenomics. Particularly say the rasayana therapy, because the rasayana therapy is something which is having a lot of bioactive phytonutrients which also can fight with the diseases and also can nullify, not exactly nullify, but definitely to quite an extent can decrease the harmful effect of these environment pollutants. As we really can see in the researches coming up nowadays is the B vitamins particularly, and the folic acid is something which is helping us to negate the effect of the heavy metals which we are consuming sometime from the seafood, or maybe because of the overuse of the pesticides kind of things. And there are other factors also, like choline is in the choline is there, or the complex vitamins are there which also are detoxifying the pesticide which we are consuming nowadays. So my main point here is, in whatever I wanted to tell you is, here whatever food we are consuming, that should be in sync with our genome, or maybe you can say the nutrigenome. So that's why the food is more local or more seasonal, and the way it is getting cooked is more relevant to the nutrigenome which we are inheriting from our parents. Because otherwise, the food which we are taking from outside and from the different regions sometimes also can not have that much beneficial effect which maybe it is having on their natives comparatively. So that's why I'm thinking that this thing also needs to be considered, and to popularize more of the local food, more of the seasonal foods. And we're having a lot of varieties also in the market. Yeah, diversity comparatively is less nowadays in India because we are living in the urban areas and not having access, and even the farming condition right now in India is not very good. So I really want to look upon the kind of varieties which the regional areas are having, so that we can consume that thing. And moreover, the Ayurvedic nutraceuticals, which already our panelists have talked about, like ashwagandha is there in the market, and a lot of other rasayanas are there, which really can also work as epigenetic erasers. If we are having the epigenetic writers, so do we having the epigenetic erasers also, which really can help us to come up as a healthy genome, which we can pass on to our next generations. But there's the last point which I also wanted to mention here is this: the time window in which we really have to introduce these kind of diets is again critical and important. Because as per the researches, infancy is the stage, or maybe the prenatal, as per the Ayurveda, the prenatal time is the more crucial time when we really can have these kind of nutraceuticals, which are the bioactive and the more potent antioxidant and the anti-inflammatory in the nature, which can also can pass on to the nutrigenome of the and our kids, or maybe the infants, and also the other sports happening at the adolescent time and then early childhood time also. So that is something which we really need to take care of if we really want to decrease the disease burden overall in overall world. We really have to intervene with all these kind of nutraceuticals, which are again local and as per the region of that area will be introduced. So that would be really good in terms of decreasing the disease burden, and also can have a lasting impact also in our successive generations as well. So that is the thing which I really wanted to say about it. And lastly, I really want to address one more interesting point, like Mr. Vikash was saying about the cholesterol thing. So I really know my grandparents are from the village. So we usually what we do is that the first milk of the cow or buffalo which we really have at our home, we used to distribute it to the rest of the people around, because that is not only that's in not only sufficient for the you can say their kids also, but also can distribute to the other people as well. And this is something which is a very natural source of cholesterol also, and this is a very rich source of the vitamin A and other anti-inflammatory and immunity boosting supplements also. And this traditional practice is not actually getting practiced anymore in our Indian societies, but again, that's a very good practice which we really can adopt also, maybe can commercialize also. So this is just I really wanted to say about it. Thank you.
Yes, Jyoti, that's a new view to food and how you have to plan your nutraceuticals. There is a question that I have over here. It's a statement, it's a point of view that the foods have their own value. But I think more of value is how the body responds to the food that is coming in, how you're able to digest it and convert it into that ingredient that the body really requires to fight disease. So my question comes to you, Dr. Vivek, at this stage. What do you think? The Ayurveda, the philosophy of Ayurveda, in what manner does it greatly contribute? Or how would people understand that particular philosophy, keeping in view nutrition, I will not say nutraceutical at this stage, in prevention and wellness?
Well, Dr. Vaidya, if I refer to the Ayurvedic treatise, like what is written in the Samhita, Charak Samhita and other Vigyanas, that clearly mention about, which talks about Shvastravitta and positive health hygiene. Referring to that, it's very clear that our lifestyle, according to the season, according to the routine, according to the changing environment, is something which we have to be in meeting with those requirements. That is one thing. And it's totally depends upon the adaptability, seasonal adaptability. And it is not only confined to your routine, confined at what time you wake up, how do you carry your routine. It's always that what is your diet changes which you are going to adopt also during that particular season. That is the one part. That means adaptability according to the varied season, and that is covered in the routine. Dincharya, Ritucharya, both. Coming to the other part of it, what changes you can bring in your dietary habits. So dietary habit, like we say, the one diet which we are regularly taking on daily basis, like it can be your kitchen diet and what. Apart from it, if I correlate with the nutrient part of it, or nutrition, or the phytoactives, phytochemicals, again, that we know the concept of this concept of the Vata Pitta Kapha, the body constituents. We know at what time it aggravates, what time it goes down, how the elevation has to be. Though it is a very specific science, it's a very vast to understand the body constituents and to take decision over the kind of the diet and the nutrients. But in general, persons, they know about their trouble. If they have a pain in the limb or the leg, they understand, okay, the Vata has been increased. If they have some digestibility issue, the Pitta has been increased. And with all these practices, with some error what they are doing on their daily life, something is happening in intrinsic level, and that is creating a lot of the problems in a matrix, in a cascade. Like AMA, the undigested metabolic waste, is one of that. Over a period of time, when it gets accumulate, arthritis or joint related issues comes. So how we have to work upon digestion part, the nutrients, focusing on the nutrients, my statement will be, okay, if somebody knows, okay, they have some sleep issues, they have the sleep disturbances, they don't have the proper sleep, with their own knowledge, with their own cognizance about what they read on and they Google on the internet and on, and ashwagandha or some kind of the Valerian can be an option. So before they go for any kind of the medicine, the conventional approaches of it with the pharmacological, they should select, okay, this is my way to prevent it or to manage my issues or disorders. If somebody is having some cardiac issue, or they know my family has been suffering with the cardiac problems, with my earlier parents or the grandparents, that is another cognizance. I should take Arjuna extract at earlier stage at the age of 25, 30 to manage my cholesterol and to manage my myocardial things, where my muscles will be stronger, so that I will reduce the chances of getting the vascular disease in the neck of the life. So our focus should be prevention, and the nutrients, to identify and to recognize the right nutrients at different stages is the proper strategy to maintain the health all during the different stages of the life, not only at particular or when they feel, okay, I am at the brink of to get the disease. No, actually much earlier before when they feel, and that is the stage-specific diet is one strategy which can combat the future problems and to manage their specific conditions throughout the life. That is my take on it.
So actually, it is not only eating the right food, it is also eating the right food at the right time for the right reason. Yeah. So of course, this approach of Ayurveda is going to completely change the manner in which the concept of wellness, and now so much emphasis is being given on the concept of prevention of disease, that is going to really step in. And this is, of course, our homegrown science. And people from around the world are looking at it with a very different perspective and hope. Right now, actually, I was hoping to ask Dr. Halde, but he's yet to join in into our session. So he would have given us a lot of information upon the regulatory affairs that are involved in this particular aspect. But coming again to a global perspective scenario, something that is homegrown is we take for granted, and when told once again, we understand what is the value. But Dr. Vikash, since you are in Singapore and since you are facing a global community, and since I lived in Singapore many years back, and I know how people are very techno savvy over there, they are well read. They are not only that, they are willing to experiment. Is one thing that I did find about that community, and they are trendsetters. They're trendsetters. So coming to your question is, what are your observations in pre and during COVID pandemic times? What are the wellness challenges, and how do you think the nutraceutical industries should respond to the consumer demands?
Thanks, Dr. Sujata, and maybe I can devote my first minute on an extension of the legislative thing that we wanted to talk about. And this is where, again, bringing in the innovation and commercial lens into play. There are parallel product streams, if I may use the word, like we are talking a lot about Ayurveda and the products which are in India, and Indian diaspora has been adopting and consuming a lot in pre-COVID times. Parallelly, we have TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine, as we call it, a very enriched cultural and scientifically also proven discipline, if I may say, in terms of preventive, corrective, proactive healthcare. Let's put it this way. And likewise, if we travel to Indonesia, it is called jamu. There are differences in terms of what typically is a composition or constitution of a jamu product versus a TCM versus an Ayurveda product. I believe as a science graduate that we are in the quest of that active ingredient or bioactive ingredient, or that active component, which through traditional route is coming in not maybe in the microgram, milligram, but not in high concentration. And earlier, one of the panelists alluded to in terms of its bioavailability or bioavailability. I mean, even if I'm consuming, how much really is my is getting into my absorption system and impacting on my body metabolism, etc. So clearly, what we are witnessing is that with COVID, there has been a big surge in adoption and consumption of these products, whether it's coming from Jamu stream or TCM or even Ayurveda. Interestingly, COVID has taught us a lesson that it is no longer to the consumers that when we fall sick, that's when we are going, or when the doctor has prescribed, that's when I'm going to a store and looking for a vitamin supplement, or never mind, I will eat something which I need now, like Dr. Vivek was saying, when to have what. So now we are clearly seeing a shift in terms of the grocery bucket of the consumers. Definitely, these products of the three streams that I spoke about, they are finding a way in the monthly purchases. And it is kind of, the circling back to what we grew up with. Now, instead of traditional formats, these products are now processed. They are regulated by legislation. Something important to highlight to the participants on this conference. In certain countries, TCMs are approved to be claimed back by an employee under an insurance scheme. So imagine if this is the acceptance of the traditional knowledge, which is now getting into the nutraceutical space and therapeutics, and it is accepted to be reimbursed, insurance companies are reimbursing, that makes it much more legitimate, and therefore consumers are starting to believe more in the preventive and proactive healthcare part. So this is clearly what I'm seeing happening. Quickly touching upon the wellness question that you have given to me. I think we have spoken a lot about in our today's discussion about physical well-being, health, which clearly is being discussed in terms of certain symptoms that is obvious. But what we are seeing globally, and I believe the case is there in India as well, the mental well-being is becoming more and more important so during the COVID times. And therefore, I clearly see that the products which are catering to the emotional well-being or mental well-being, and those which are coming through the traditional route, because there's a higher acceptance amongst the consumer which is coming from the traditional route. Because either at some point in time as a child or in the growing years, one has come across those products or when you have traveled. So clearly I'm seeing these kind of mental wellness products are becoming more and more popular. Bringing in a commercial dimension is something which is catering to those emotions and mental well-being of the consumers. They're willing to spend the money. So therefore, there is an opportunity clearly in terms of not just looking at the physical well-being, because there's a lot of product there, but equally look through in terms of what is the space where mental well-being product could be commercialized or further developed. And one example could be Lactium, which is, milk through a particular enzyme brings a relaxing property into the human body. And this kind of products definitely I foresee more and more becoming popular.
Yes, that is wonderful to know that now the entire industry has taken cognizance of the fact that health and wellness is not restricted to the physical body, but it does definitely include a large aspect that is assigned to your emotional well-being, to your mental health. And what pandemic has taught us is that we are kicked out of our comfort zones, of of the concept of being lonely in crowds and being lonely alone. I wish there was some sort of food that was going to address that particular aspect, but I'm sure the nutraceutical industry will come up with something like that, this kind of juice is to be had when you're kind of feeling lonely and you'll feel better.
Thanks, Dr. Sujata, and I see Dr. Prabodh has joined us, so over to you.
Dr. Prabodh, I can see that you're traveling in a car, so I'm really, really grateful that you could be a part of this this seminar. And I
thank you. Actually, I was having some meeting, and what we are discussing, actually, I was experiencing. I am in a backside of my Ministry of Ayush, so you can correlate this important of the today's discussion. I'm just actually having that. Just 5 minutes back, we were in the program. So sorry for delay. And then I wanted to join at 12:40, but our meeting got actually delayed.
That is okay, Dr. Prabodh. So I'm going to take advantage of the fact that you're here. And you are an expert in this particular field. So what each of the panelists have spoken and contributed to the concept of nutraceuticals and their impact in the business forum, as well as the consumers, the trends that are going on. I'm going to dive directly into a question that you missed a few minutes back. And let's hope that you are going to answer without knowing what all the panelists have said. So your answer is something that is directed to our audience. And your audience is a mixture of those people who are in the industry as well as those who are consumers. So my question to you directly is how the industry can leverage on nutraceutical regulations, especially in the light of COVID. I think we've lost him for a minute. Okay, so this question is thrown open, and once he does come in, I will repeat the question for him. He's back. Dr. Prabodh, are you in a position to be able to answer?
Yeah. Yes, okay. Yes. Tell me, sorry.
Let me repeat the question.
I got disconnected.
Yeah. how the industry can leverage on nutraceuticals, the regulations that surround nutraceuticals versus food versus drugs, especially in the light of the current COVID situation.
Yeah, I really don't know what other my panelists have actually answered, but I will straightly talk from my heart, and my experience goes in the food and also in the nutraceutical. Ma'am, basically what we have seen in 2020 and particularly COVID wave came in month of March. Today, if you see the change, what has happened in our life is that whenever we are meeting with anybody, though your friend or relative, first question we ask, how is your health? So the health has become the most and paramount important. The actually wealth, spelling of wealth has been changed to health only. W has been replaced with H. And as we know that the nutraceuticals are the component of the food which gives you a health benefit beyond the basic nutrition. And the wisdom of Ayurveda, wisdom of herbs can actually give a better benefit as a vehicle, as a food. Now, entire globe, I was just discussing with some senior officer in Ayush, the entire globe, including the Western countries, Western Europe, USA, have export potential has improved hugely. And that too interest in the nutraceutical. So for example, ashwagandha alone today is exported 1,500 crore. So I'm just giving you the category. If you want to think about 1,500 crore is a very, very big number. So the nutraceutical, no doubt, has huge potential, but it requires a authentic ingredients and some kind of clinical proof that it works. So these are the burden on the formulator and the food business operator. If we come with the science, I think there is a huge scope. Before COVID, the nutraceutical was a talk of the town, but after COVID, now suddenly some sectors have shown huge interest. Number one interest of the sector is immunity. And we have seen a lot of products are coming into the immunity. And let me tell you, the investment in the research and development overall is 2% in India. As per DST, Department of Science and Technology data, investment in research and development in the sector of food and beverages and agriculture sector is 2%. In mobile sector, in medicine, it is to the tune of 7% because their survival is dependent on the research. Now post-COVID, what I'm seeing the trend, research and development budget in every industry, every company has increased. And I consider by 2024, India will have a double the research and development budget than what previous year. The trends which we have seen in the nutraceutical is the immunity is number one. But ma'am, one more interesting thing, the COVID has passed. More than 3 crore people have passed the COVID knowingly, and unknowingly might be more than 6 crore. Now post-COVID symptoms, then there are symptoms like mood actually changing and the sleep disorders, stress, those issues which are happening called as a post-COVID issues. Nutraceutical can be a very, very good substitute because taking medicine, for example, the sleep disorder, there is no medicine for the sleep disorder, only a good food, good thought, a regular exercise, and maximum you can take some kind of nutraceutical or the ayurvedical, we call it as ayurvedical. So the schedule 4 of the FSSAI has given the list of botanicals. So my answer is that yes, there is a huge scope, but that particular should be backed with the good science. It cannot be a fly by night operation. It cannot be a copycat. It needs to be a sustainable efforts through the R&D. So my appeal to all the nutraceutical companies, those who are interested, I think we should do backup with good R&D. Could be collaborative R&D or your own R&D, but it should be based on the science. Already a lot of only the people have cheated. So that kind of thing should not go that the people are cheating and only the claims are being made. It should be backed up with the good science. So answer is yes, there is a huge requirement. I don't want to put some number, but yes, numbers are also double digit, rather the more than 20% up, that kind of, but we need to dissect the market. And since the domestic or export, the quality cannot be compromised. Quality cannot be compromised. So these are my thoughts, ma'am, on your first question.
That is very true, and I think the whole world is now understanding the very concept that this kind of wellness that used to be a desire has now become a need. So,
Yes.
And in fulfilling this particular need, people are going to be extremely careful about quality. And quality comes and is backed with science. I understand every word that you are speaking of, and actually it is really commendable that the Ayush Ministry has stepped in a big way to support this entire wave of traditional knowledge backing nutraceuticals versus disease management and drugs. So actually, Jyoti, my question comes to you here as what Dr. Halde was talking about, the quality, the science, and everything that needs to back up this tremendous opportunity that all of us have, even in maintaining good business, in as much as fulfilling the need that has arisen globally. So, Jyoti, my question to you is, of course, pre-COVID, nobody thought much about it. Everybody is fighting about prevention. But there is a larger segment of the people, like it has been earlier mentioned, that maybe 6 crore people knew they got well, but there's so many more. I believe there are 80% of people who are non-symptomatic but COVID positive. And they also need to understand how to look after themselves. And they definitely fall into the category of post-COVID people, right? So my question to you as a nutritionist is, post-COVID, there are complications. How is diet and dietary management with specific dietary intervention, how is it going to help our society? Now, the question is two-sided. One is for the consumer as the end consumer. And second is for our manufacturers, is for our business segment. How should they look at it? What is it that they should be looking out for when they are talking about specific diet in the post-COVID group of people? Jyoti, please unmute yourself again, dear.
All right. So the main thing is that all these post-COVID complications are happening. Why these are happening? Because post-COVID, during the COVID time, whatever the damage have been done by the virus is in the form of the inflammation, first of all. That's why we are seeing all kind of symptoms right now in our patients, and particularly the organs hit by these viruses are doing the organ damage, and mainly they are damaging the lungs, heart, as well as the brain. So I'm meeting every day the patients who are either coming with the symptoms like pleural effusion they are having, even the pericardial infusion having, thrombolism. So we even have seen the people are dying because of the heart attack or maybe because of all the blood clotting factors also. So we really need to look upon the whole scenario. And modern science is not having the proper relief in terms of symptomatic relief as well as for the anti-inflammation part as well. Why? Because normally the doctor are prescribing the steroids. So steroid is something which we really can't prescribe for the longer term because obviously it is having the side effects like this is particularly increasing the stomach bleeding and the more people are getting prone to the diabetes. So the people even are coming with the myalgia. And for the myalgia, usually some analgesic is prescribed by the doctor, which is having side effects, particularly on the kidney and liver. So obviously, this is something also hampering and making the disease more grave. So we really have to look upon the some other alternative, and alternative is the Ayurvedic nutraceuticals, because ultimately the root cause behind all these symptoms are the inflammation, which is giving one or the other symptom to the person, as well as for the proper detoxification of the body, so that the lungs damage or the heart damage or whatever the organ damage is happening, that can be reversed with the help of the bioactive compounds. So the phytonutrient is something which we all are talking about a lot, but we really have to look upon the food part as well and how we can make it as an integral part, so that that really can help us to find out the solution for all these symptomatic relief to improve the quality of the life. So I'll start with the food initially. And but before that thing, the main point which I really want to address is the anti-inflammation, which normally people are talking about nowadays a lot. And we really know this thing, even the Ayush Ministry have worked a lot on this thing, that ashwagandha, as mentioned by the panelists also, that is basically is a very good anti-inflammatory agent, along with the other herbs like guduchi is there, which is called Tinosporia podifila. So these are the herbs which we really can have for negating the effect of the inflammation happening because of the viral infection. Otherwise, there are other also. Spices are again very potent anti-inflammatory as well as antioxidant particle, which we really can use, and we can take extract out of it so that they really can be more potent and more, you can say, objective about their approach. For example, Piper longum is there, which is a very good antioxidant and anti-inflammatory product. Licorice is one of that. And amla is again having the higher affinity for the COVID, particularly as immunomodulator, antiviral, and antipyretic effect also have been observed because of this thing. So that is one part I want to touch upon. Second part is the medication which already is prescribed for the complications. So we should give the alternative to these medications also, modern medicines, because as I mentioned earlier, they are having the side effects also. We really can't continue for the longer term. But again, the post-COVID syndrome, or you really can say in a more technical language, is a multi-system inflammatory syndrome as quoted by the CDC. So that is something which will be hampering the health of the people for longer than 12 weeks or even more than that. That is going more in a chronic form. So the disease is actually in the grave problem. So I'm just mentioning some of the spices or some of the ingredients which we're having in the kitchen. We really have to see the science behind it, and we really also can commercialize their extracts also. For example, ginger is an anti-inflammatory spice, and it is actually having a natural acid called salicylate, which is the same derivative used in the aspirin. The full name of the aspirin is acetyl salicylic acid. So this is again is a potent blood thinner. So why can't we use the ginger as a blood thinner? And same way, the cinnamon is having the coumarin, a powerful blood thinning agent used in the warfarin medication. So here are a few things which we really need to see. Moreover, the gingerol is a phytoconstant in the liver. Ginger is having cardioprotective effect by stimulating the blood flow through relaxing the blood vessels particularly. And the more people are coming with the orthostatic hypotension, which is basically they're having the dizziness when they are started to stand up after sitting for the long. So they really are having dizziness, and they even are having some kind of problem like temporary paralysis also. This is happening to the patients. So we really have to see how we really can help from the Ayurveda or from the very next thing which is available to us as food.
So actually, sorry, I have to speed you up because we are lacking time. So Jyoti, actually what you're saying that each of our food ingredients have got those active ingredients that have medicinal property.
Yeah.
And it is only a question of us actually knowing which are those food, let's say, those foods or those ingredients that we need to pay attention to. So, Dr. Vivek, over here, I want to ask you something. What is the best strategy, nutritional strategy, that a person needs to look forward to, and especially in combating things like inflammation? Okay. Now, if we are talking about the business segment, we are talking about not only active ingredients, we are talking about specific phytonutrients. How can they be made a part of your strategy to combat, or let's say, to look forward to changes in our situation using nutrition or nutraceuticals as a base? Dr. Vivek.
I think it's very important to understand what is the inflammation. So like the earlier panelist Jyoti has given some correlation with the COVID-19 is that. I would like to add one thing, that inflammation is one when we are attacked by the invaders like pathogens, bacteria, viruses. That's a one part. Inflammation is one which is persisting day in and out. It's not like when the invaders only attack or when the bacteria attack, then the 5 signs of the inflammation appear suddenly. No, actually that is one part. It can be more systemic, but a part in the daily routine also by our lifestyle error and wrong diet, it's something day in and out inflammation is there persisting. Now there are two-way management. When that inflammation comes upon the attack by the invaders, we'll take some antiviral, antibacterial, we'll reduce the infections, and we'll be well with that approach of the pharmacological of the medicines. In this other category, because of the bad routine, bad or wrong diet, something, what we are accumulating in the daily, and the inflammation is there. And if I link this thing to the disease, like it's not only these bacterial conditions or the viral conditions, it is diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson. Inflammation is the basic reason there. Apart from those 5 signs, or still amongst those 5 signs, 1 or 2 signs are present in all these kind of conditions. And 90% of the medical diseases, inflammation is innate. Inflammation is the one of the basic etiology of the prognosis there. Coming to
the big devil of comorbidities shows
Right.
its ugly face over here and tells us that sometimes it is not the disease, but what we are carrying with us, the bag of comorbidities that are going to kill
Right.
us.
And last 1 minute, I will just focus on the phytoactives, which is, I think, well explained by Ms. Jyoti also. Important. For example, if I'm working on a product for, say, for the diabetes, my focus should not be one to reduce or to manage the glucose level. That is one thing. But the associated conditions, because the inflammation is not because of the glucose disturbed metabolism, it's because of the other conditions which are like the nerve dysfunctioning, something which is happening with your eyes condition, something there with your stress. So everything, gut-brain axis, how we have to work upon on the psychosomatic well-being, that is where we have to focus on. So adding something like Gymnema sylvester for gymnemic acid, which we say good mar, something Momodica charencia like bitter gourd, principles of tannins, and all these, I would prefer to add something which works on the stress also, because stress is another, if your sleep is disturbed for 3 days, I will say rather 2 days, there are conditions in 60% of the population, they get fever or their hyperpyrexia condition in most of the patients. That means inflammation is other triggering factors. So where the lifestyle, your diets are more responsible for this inflammation, that particular inflammation, which is systemic or the pathogenic, is something which comes with the invader. But what the things which we are doing in a daily routines or with the diet and the errors which we are making in that seasonal eruptibility, I think that gives inflammation in every time, and that is getting accumulate. And that's a threat for your upcoming life, upcoming stages of the life. One thing which we always lacking in this, when we talk about nutrients, we are talking about the phytoactives and the bioactives. We should not forget that apart from different trends across the globe, being an Ayurvedic science is the high science, we should always be factual and very much meticulous on our thought process or pondered upon it, that selecting the ingredient and delivering in the final format, we should always be very much careful that active constituent should be there, but active delivery, there should not be any depletion of particular constituents, so that sometimes creating a different kind of the tea bags, different doses format, we actually reduce the chances of the wholesome phytoactive working in the synergism. That is very important too, because it's something which comes from the Ayurveda, and Ayurveda should be conceived as the Ayurveda rather to make it more filtered, and very times, sometimes we actually make some error in final delivery methods. That is also very...
Ayurveda needs to be understood and accepted as a whole science and not taken in part. Over here, I want to ask Ranjita a question.
Yes.
I think we're going to be overstepping the time limit that has been given to this particular session. So a few questions have come up, but I think your answer is something that should be able to give directive to all the audience who have asked specific questions. So Ranjita, my question to you is, what is the unique positioning and commercial strategy? Now, this is a very, very leading question. And at the end of Ranjita's answer, if any of the panelists would like to contribute to it very briefly, please, because we are short of time, to add on, because this is going to be the crux of this entire session. So what is the unique positioning and commercial strategy for the Indian and global markets, considering our nutraceuticals in now ongoing COVID and post-COVID times? How is it going to change everything for us?
Thank you.
What guidelines will you give our audience who are in the manufacturing sector?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Sujata, and thank you, panelists. Like everyone has highlighted their pointers. Just to take it forward, yesterday we just celebrated the International Nutraceutical Day, where we took the baton, and it's on the foundation, as rightly said by Dr. Vivek, Dr. Prabodh, Vikash. The base is on the foundation of the science of the ingredients. It's nothing else other than the science which takes up the ingredients. And now when I see what are the unique positioning, when you talk about the unique positioning for nutraceutical products, we need to take a step ahead and understand how the consumer behavior is, what motivates a consumer to buy supplements. Now, when we talk about a consumer for nutraceutical, he's not a person who will just go and pick up things. He'll be the person who will have a knowledge, a science. And as a marketeer, we also need to be strong and do a responsible marketing, where we talk about the products or the ingredients in a right way, in the right dosage it is given, in the right communication, which is not against the regulatory requirements from the FSSAI guidelines. So considering all those parameters, a marketer should take care of putting across the branding of their products, advertisements in the right format, which is rightly communicated to the consumer. So the consumer is gaining the knowledge of buying the supplements. Also, as a sector, we need to, the whole industry, the whole consumer, you would see a 3-year-old till a 70-year-old seen in front of the screens in your mobiles. So your target consumers, you need to ensure that you are also reaching them on the digital front. So it could be either through all of your social medias like LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook. And that's how you will be able to do your positioning rightly to the consumer, because in the social media, you have the options as to what age group you want to target, what gender you want to target. So those specific target positioning will happen when the sector is taken across through this digital forum. Also, to add on, the main important point which I would say is the consumer will not just look on to the product science benefit, also to the aesthetic of the product, the delivery format. As highlighted by Dr. Vivek, that the dosage, the ingredient has to be extracted and put in the right format, in the right dosage. If it is not given in the right dosage, it's not administered and you wouldn't see the result. So an aesthetic part, a delivery part, a dosage form, and the results. Combining all of this together will give you a right positioning and the strategy for the product launch. Over to you, Dr. Sujata, if anything else has to be added.
That is wonderful. So too much of a very good thing also is bad.
Yes.
that is something. Of course, we have come to the end of our session, but before we close, Dr. Prabodh, can you add on to what Ranjita has said? You are working closely with the ministry. So can you kind of give us tips on absolutely what is latest, how the market is moving and how our people, our manufacturers, our service industry can gain from your few wise words now?
Thank you. And I was actually observing very closely with my earlier speakers. Yes, the insights from the government, what is happening. So number one, those who are interested, export is a big potential any company wants to do. Ministry of Ayush and even the Export Promotion Council and from the Ministry of Food Processing, they are promoting the export in big way. So those who are interested, you can connect with the expert in the ministries or from their website. But for export, you require to have a good quality product. Number one, good traceability, analytical techniques. And then once the product reaches to the whatever the market, the value addition is very good and realization is also good. But then there are the input costs. So I would say that all the manufacturers should go for different kind of certifications, which are today the trend. Like if you are going for organic, if you are going for kind of different certificates, which will show a good traceability, the GMP, GHP is a mandatory. So we're not talking about the basic certificate. We are talking about the higher end certificate. So USDA certificate or any other VRC certificate. I think if this is about the export, so you ask me the trend is the money is in the export if any company is interested. As far as the domestic companies are also involved, in the COVID, we have to understand one thing. The psyche of the people is that we don't want to spend money now. That is the psyche. People have stopped investing in the capital cost, capital items, like we have postponed our buying the new car. We have postponed the going abroad is now people are not spending money. Even the actually the like building or plot or the housings, people are not investing the way we used to invest earlier. So everything, every penny is now wisely invested or wisely spent, except on the health. We want to do preventive. Nutraceutical fortunately comes under prevention. It is not the, so I always say nutraceutical industry is healthcare industry and pharmaceutical industry is sick care industry, because they take care of the sick people. We take care of the healthy people to maintain your health. So people are ready to invest money in the nutraceutical. People are ready to buy the product which will give them a preventive health or give them a healthy lifestyle. But it is a holistic thing. And one should not do some kind of magic remedy thing kind of claims which will show that suddenly something has happened. I think as a responsible companies, we need to, because the government is watching on such kind of claims, and also such kind of companies, again, as a night flyby operators. I think we need to. One more thing which I think as a going forward, like we need to go towards the academicians. Industry research is a very expensive thing, but academicians are getting money from the government and they are not doing any research which is useful for the industry. So this gap is present. If we can connect with the good academicians in the food and in the Ayush or in the nutraceutical space, and the PhDs which we produced, like IITians, if their research can, not 100%, but at least 50% research comes to the product, comes to the benefit of the industry, I think then we are there. What has happened in the US? These are the areas, I think these are the tips or the mantras which I would say that every industry need to look at towards the academicians, which we can do this some kind of MOU, and some kind of our research can be loaned there, which is a short term or long term. And we should give some funding to the researchers wherein their research can be utilized. And lastly, I would say that a lot of startups are coming in this space. So the big companies, rather than considering them as your competitor, we can actually, today is the mantra after the COVID is a collaboration. So you do this, I do this, and together we can achieve something. So there is no competitor today. Everybody can do their own strength, and you are a bowler, I am a batsman, and together we form a team. So this is the mantra of post-COVID. If you are good at branding, you do the brand. If you are good at marketing, if you are good at manufacturing, you do the manufacturing. Somebody will do the branding. So need not to be everything to be done by you alone. So we should know our strength and we should invest in the strength rather than doing everything your own. So yes, these are my few tips.
I thank each and every one of the panelists for giving such great information. It is going to be of a lot of advantage. And not alone is it that we need good food as good nutrition, but we need knowledge, we need evidence, we need research, and definitely we need to back it with regulation. And of course, the world is looking forward to traditional knowledge to deliver all of this. And I think the best traditional knowledge comes from the Indian traditional knowledge systems. So thank you each and everyone for all your views. It's going to make a lot of impact on our audience. And I think the questions will keep coming in. Is that right? And we look forward to the panelists answering direct questions when they come your way eventually. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata. Thank you, Ranjita. Thank you, Vikash.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the panel members for joining in. It was an insightful session. We also have a lot of comments with how important and insightful the session was for the audience attending. Thank you once again. We now sign off of the panel, and our next session for all the audience attending is at 2:30. Look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you and have a great day to all the panel members.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.